Greetings, Starfighter. You are about to listen to the totally super awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast. Always remember, no matter where you go, there you are. Ready Player One.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA.
Okay, welcome everybody for joining another exciting episode of 80s Reboot Overdrive. Today we are going to be talking 1987 movies. Very exciting topic. If you were to listen to our previous episodes where we're doing our movie review podcast, we had done a version where we would open up IMDb and talk through the various top movies of that year. But I think 1986, we changed formats a little bit. Is that right, Nick? Was it 86?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, 86, we changed the format where we started picking on just maybe three movies from that year that we wanted to discuss. So we're continuing on that same theme, but, you know, we kind of build it as our top three. But the way I look at it is really just something that you've got some interesting story or dialogue to go along with it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your heartfelt top three if that's not what you choose, but much like our 80s music albums, still a very personable list. So on the show today, we have got Jesse.
Hello there. I am so happy you guys asked me to jump on again, or actually I just pushed myself. Poor Dave puts on the Facebook, yeah, we're thinking about it, and I'm like, I can do it. I had so much fun talking about the 80s albums. Very excited to talk movies, and specifically this year.
Yeah, 87, great year for movies.
Yes.
Nick's on?
Inconceivable.
I'm wondering which one of it is going to be his guess. All right, and then we've got Scott.
Hi again, it's good to be back.
Very cool. 1987 movies. We've got a lot of Twitter shout-outs that we've got to go through, but we want to start with our stuff. We're kind of selfish that way. To get us started, you know what, Nick? Why don't you tell us what's your first pick?
Well, it would be obvious to go with what to reference the quote that I just did, but no. In fact, I'm going to surprise you a little bit and go with RoboCop.
Nice.
Good. Nice.
First ultraviolet action movie I ever saw. To the point.
Ultraviolet.
Ultraviolent. Yeah.
Oh, ultraviolent. I'm like, ultraviolet.
Sorry.
What was it? It's okay. I get it now.
Yep.
It is ultraviolet. It's awesome. That's a great
first
one.
movie I remember where my mother walked into the room and immediately tried to turn the TV off. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, we had some pretty graphic killing scenes. Mm-hmm. I'd buy that for $1. Of course, drug use. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was just all around just wonderful 80s goodness there.
It's like the violence, especially. It is so out there and over the top. It's graphic, yes. It's like even now it's graphic, but it's so over the top that it becomes absurd, and therefore you're able to, at least I find you're able to process it better.
Yeah, and one of the things I loved about it is Ronnie Cox.
Oh,
who I known from TV on The Apple's Way, which was kind of this friendly family. You know, he's this matriarch of a family. You know, and he's patriarch. Just so, patriarch, thank you. And just, he's so wonderful in this movie as not that person.
Well, wasn't this movie like his first in a long string of playing just like slimy bad guys? That became like his new thing?
I really do. I think so. And you know, what's really good about this is this movie has a lot of heart, too. The character, Peter Weller does a great job of acting and really showing that Alex is, and then later RoboCop, right, how much this has hurt him and what's going on.
And I mean, 90% of his role, he's under the mask.
Yes.
So, but he somehow manages to come through the mask, and Yeah, it's really well done like that. The scene where he wanders through his old house, that was well done. That's
Yeah.
that's a nice little breather from the over the top other stuff. But yeah.
So when's the last time? I will be candid. I have not seen this thing recently. When's the last time the three of you have seen this?
Oh, it's probably been a good maybe 5, 6, 7 years.
Oh, really?
Okay.
But my favorite scene though from that movie has got to be the one where they've got the little hidden prime directive in there about not being able to
Yep.
arrest or hurt the OCP officers,
Mhm.
and then at the end the guy gets fired, and then
Yep.
yeah, I love that.
And then Dick Jones's arms grow about 3 feet on each side. You ever pause it when he's like falling out the window? His arms are just like these huge, like long tube arms.
Fantastic scene.
I don't know. The last time I watched it was when it was on Netflix streaming, and that was actually a few months ago. I needed something to be on when I was washing some dishes, and I ended up watching the entire thing.
Do you think it held up?
Oh God, yes. I mean, it's very much a product of the '80s, especially just
Right.
aesthetic, the look. But
Yeah.
it's still pretty. Some of the themes are still pretty resonant.
Okay.
Greed, inhumanity, technology, Peter Weller, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, and what about you, Scott? Do you remember the last?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, it's been probably 20 years since I've seen that one. That's
Oh, wow.
but I mean, it sticks out in my memory definitely as one of the prime movies of that year. As I was looking through the list, I mean, I've seen probably 80% of the movies on that list that I was looking at on IMDb, and it was really hard to narrow it down. But RoboCop was definitely one that I considered for a second or two, and but I had kind of a feeling that one of you guys were going to bring that one up too, because it's a classic for sure. If I remember correctly, there was a scene where a guy literally explodes because of toxic waste. Right?
Yep.
That was, yeah,
one of the henchmen.
that is awesome.
He goes
gets hit by a car, right?
Yep. He goes. Well, he's trying to run over RoboCop. He's in the van, and he misses him. And he looks back, and he doesn't see the giant tank of waste that's up upon him. And then he hits it, thinks the waste floods out, and then all of a sudden, half-melted zombie comes out, and then for the rest of the movie is him just staggering around before Clarence hits him, and he just splatters. And that was some horrifying makeup there, actually. Now that I think about it,
it was pretty radical.
Yeah,
good stuff.
His fingers are hanging off, and he's like literally melting as he's walking. Yeah, it was pretty. Lots of stark imagery in that. Now that I think about it,
It actually touches on a theme that we were discussing, and once again, I'm going to be plugging old episodes of 80's Reboot. We on the robots, 80's
Yes.
robots. We were talking about the theme where I guess the media was trying to humanize robots.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So this definitely played into that theme also.
And actually, I'm glad you brought up the theme of Media Dave. Another thing that's really resonant about RoboCop is the little media break segments where it cuts to the newscasters.
Right.
And it's just like this, this sensationalistic news. It's like what was the phrase? Give us 2 minutes, we'll give you the world. And it's just these little news sound bites and these like little just weird off kilter stories about war in South Africa, the Star Wars satellite misfiring and killing 3 former presidents, and it got that sensationalistic news thing that sadly still kind of is a relevant thing today.
Next pick goes to Jesse.
One of the things that the local sports station does is it does trifecta talk. And the idea was, celebrity deaths usually happen in threes, and they use this as a basis so they can cover a celebrity, and then they will vote whether the celebrity was trifecta worthy, whether it was a big enough star to be considered.
That sounds very
everyone's
grim.
Yeah, it is, but it's
Yeah.
kind of funny. It gives an idea, that you can talk about someone's life. And every once in a while they go, we don't even need to take a vote. There's a couple of movies on this that I think that if we had, to make it less grim, first ballot Hall of Fame would absolutely go. So I'm going to hold off on those. And if somehow all 12 picks don't pick a certain if it's inconceivable that that there these 12 choices, one of the movies that I'm talking about doesn't get picked, we'll cover it. But I'm going to pick No Way Out as my first movie.
Oh, nice.
I watched it today. It happened to be on Encore, and I taped it, and I watched it today, and it held up. Gene Hackman is just in his best. Gary Patton, who is on Falling Skies now, and I always loved him in Remember the Titans as one of the coaches. Before Sean Young went crazy, very good looking, and of course a very young Kevin Costner. I remember watching this, and almost all of these, I watched on VHS originally, with the Blockbuster's heyday. But I remember the back of the limo scene, and then Sean Young wearing nothing but a fur coat. And, when they go to her friend's apartment and you get to see a naked Sean Young, and I was like,
we got to keep it PG-13 here.
Yes. And I will not give, in case you have not seen the movie, it has a nice twist, which is I did not see coming at all, and I thought was very interesting. So a really good spy mystery thriller that I enjoyed a lot.
Now, I will go on the record and say I have not seen this movie.
I haven't either. I've heard it. I never saw it.
I have seen it, and I remember the twist, and I remember that was the most intriguing part of the movie. It was controversial almost, and it was they really reeled you in. It was one of the few movies that they could actually get you in and twist it to a way that you just didn't see coming.
Yeah,
it's a good movie.
And I don't want to give away the twist, but I mean, basically what happens is Gene Hackman is the Secretary of Defense. Kevin Costner is a young commander in the Navy. They both end up sleeping with Sean Young. Kevin Costner knows that she's having an affair. She's kind of a kept woman. And she dies about a third way in the movie. And so the rest of the movie is trying to find the killer. But who kills it, but they're trying to – it's a big, massive cover-up. And so everyone is trying to, pin this on Costner. They just don't know it's Kevin Costner. And so it's got a lot of mystery to it, a lot of suspense. You're pulling for, Costner to try to, because he's innocent. I think it's worth. Like I said, I watched it today and I thought it held up.
And with that cast, Costner and Hackman, that really sounds like a great movie. But I'm with you. Will Patton, I loved him in Remember the Titans.
Yeah, exactly. I know the great Howard Duff, who plays Southern blowhards his whole career. Fred Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
Plays a senator, which later he becomes a senator in real life. So
is it art imitating life or life imitating art?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the only other part Iman had, I guess, besides Star Trek movie, she's got a small part in this. So it's a great cast, and it's a very much Russian spies. It's dated, but it holds up as far as I'm concerned.
So it probably ties in really well to the Red Menace conversation that we had earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool.
Actually, that's the first thing I actually thought of, because I just listened to that podcast earlier today, and when he said No Way Out, that was the first thing I thought of. It would be a great little tie-in.
All right. Well, listeners, beware. Dave's just going to plug all the old shows. So
yes.
All right. So Scott, you're up. What's your choice?
I chose a movie that I rewound so many times and watched so many bits and pieces of it over and over again, because it was just one of the funniest movies I'd seen in forever. And it's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh,
yes. Okay.
Well, now I got to choose another one.
Yeah. So give you a little thing. I have like 7 or 8 with the hope that I can get at least 3 of these were not picked. Great choice. Once again, I think that would have been a first ballot Hall of Fame. Please continue.
Oh, yeah. It's just, I actually took the time I actually took the time, and I took a few different movies that I had my favorite clips. Breakfast Club, Planes, Trains, Automobiles, a few other Weird Science, and I actually made like a mixtape of the best scenes.
Nice.
And this was
awesome.
this was a VHS back in the day and I would, and it was not easy to do. I got to tell you, because I did not have a dual deck or anything like that. I used I recorded it onto a handheld video cam when they were like not the Super 8s, one before that. And I recorded all the bits and pieces into there, and then I would record them and make it look like it was almost like a Max Headroom feel, where they repeat certain words over and over and over like 4 or 5 times, and then go to the next scene. So that's one movie that really, really Owen, the nephew. You're the shower curtain ring fella.
Yeah.
The people train don't run out of Wichita. How can you? I've watched that so many times. Get your lazy behind out of that truck and get that trunk up in it. She's short and skinny, but she's strong. First baby come out sideways. Trust me, I can go on and on with that one. That's constant quotes from that movie. Oh.
So the mixtape that you made, did that include the scene with the pillows?
Yes, those aren't pillows.
Okay.
Yes, that, and then of course the car rental scene, which we really probably can't go into.
We probably shouldn't.
Yes.
But did you count the number of F-bombs?
I do believe I did count. I don't remember how many there was at the time, or from now. I don't remember now how many there were, but I did count them at one time. And me and a friend of mine, this guy Ed, we watched that thing. We rewound that scene specifically so many times. We probably wore a little bit out of the tape. Probably started messing with the tracking on that section of the video, the VHS. So that's very, very funny movie. And from pretty much from start to finish. It's hysterical.
And it is, it's part of our culture. I know people who watch that during Thanksgiving weekend every year. Like some people may watch A Miracle on 34th Street or It's a Wonderful Life, 1776, at different holidays. I know that last year for Dragon Con, my podcast partner on the Farscape podcast, Lou, ended up, we were going to share a room. There was a mistake, and they gave us just the king-size bed. And so,
oh dear,
Lou and I okay, and I said, well, I could sleep on the floor. And he's like, come on, it's a king-size bed. And what's funny is, I guess both of us sleep in king-size beds at home. So, and my wife and I, even though we have a king-size bed, we used to have, in our earlier marriage, a queen bed. So we're used to being on, different sides of the bed. So, but we immediately quoted, "Those aren't pillows," every day with us doing this bed. And anyone in the world knew exactly what we were talking about and got the context. So, great choice.
They still do. That's still a easily quotable movie. Not just Those Aren't Pillows, but there's several other lines in there that can pop up at any time. And Those Aren't Pillows probably takes the cake for the most quoted of that movie, though. I'd have to say.
It's just amazing. It's just a wonderful movie.
And John Candy, he was hysterical. What a huge loss that was. Later on, for him to pass, and then Steve Martin has been just funny from the get-go. He's been, you go back to The Jerk and
and what's funny is that he's typically this gonzo comedian type, and he actually plays essentially the straight man.
Yes. Yeah, he's uptight. He's way too uptight.
And he does it awesomely. It just works so well.
And it's almost the same character that he plays later in Father of the Bride.
Mm-hmm.
It could be similar. He's truly amazing. And this is not the year, but Rookie of the Year, John Candy had a small cameo as the announcer. And this is it. This is the whole shooting max, the whole Gillicuddy, and he just is. I mean, we could do a whole episode on just him, because he is genius and such a loss. Totally.
The older I've gotten, especially when I was in college, I had to go back home for the holidays. I went to school in North Carolina, and my family lived in the Northeast, and so, the more I had to travel on both the holidays and the summer, the more I appreciated this movie. Because, holy God.
All you need to say is it was plane, trains, and automobiles, and immediately people, it's a shortcut. They understand you were traveling from point A to point B, and it did not go well.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
Definitely holds up, and definitely one of those movies that plays well and quotable throughout the years.
You're going the wrong way.
Yeah. Okay, it's probably second most quoted line in that movie.
Absolutely.
How does he know which way we're going?
All right. Dave, I think it's your turn, right?
It is my turn, and I am going to jump in, being completely in the 80s with a John Hughes pick. I'm going Some Kind of Wonderful.
Wow. Cool.
And the reason why I'm going with this is, once again, plugging in older podcasts. I've got to stop doing that.
No, you don't.
But I did a interview with some cast members of this musical called For the Record Live, Dear John Hughes. And we were reminiscing about all of the different John Hughes movies that made it into their musical. And Some Kind of Wonderful was a blend inside of that musical, which had Weird Science and Ferris Bueller and 16 Candles and Breakfast Club. So, I mean, it was all just totally 80s wonderful goodness. But ever since watching that, I've been wanting to rewatch Some Kind of Wonderful. But I haven't executed it yet. Because for some reason, I'm not finding it on Netflix. I'm not finding it on demand. I'm not finding it in, when I go to a various store, in the various DVD, Blu-ray section. So for some reason, it just hasn't made itself available. So for whatever reason, I just haven't executed it yet. So I've got the ideal of watching this again. But the movie itself, so much great things are on it. I absolutely loved the the love triangle going on with Keith, Watts, Amanda Jones. Leah Thompson was just beautiful in that movie. I love the scene where the bad guy, not the bad guy, but the bully Duncan is in detention with Keith, and they're actually comparing art. Where he's carving a picture in the desk with a knife, and the other one's actually drawing, on a pencil and pad. So it's just a great movie for me.
I loved that movie too, and I think it was on Netflix maybe 2 or 3 years ago when we first got Netflix. I could have sworn I watched bits and pieces of it. They might, they go through their cycles where they put new stuff out there, but I thought Mary Stuart Masterson in that one was just the cutest thing. She was, I had a huge crush on her character. The drummer, she's got the secret crush on her buddy, her best friend, but she's trying to hook him up with the girl from that is, she's beautiful, but she's from the wrong side of the tracks, and she doesn't want anybody to know.
Right.
And it's just it was a well done movie. John Hughes he's nailed a lot of them. He's done so many that are just relatable to, I think, our generation. So another loss.
Absolutely. I had a lot of crushes on the three names, like Mary Louise Parker, and Mary Stuart Masterson. I just thought, I was, I was so for Watts, not Amanda. I'm not, judging if you were, but I just thought, I agree with you. She was so cool and her tomboyish, and she just was amazing. There is something about John Hughes finding that voice and making it human that it is just something. He was very special And great choice.
I love the part also where she's got to teach him about the kiss that kills.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So,
a good scene.
yeah, and I mean, you're absolutely right. Mary Stuart Masterson playing Watts, just you saw the emotional roller coaster of her throughout that film, and she just nailed it. She owned that. So yeah, very awesome movie in my eyes. All right, so we are going around again. So Nick, you're up again.
Well, I was going to say planes, trains, and automobiles, but I had to pick up a second choice, and I'm only slightly embarrassed to admit it's another action movie choice, but still one that I have a great deal of fondness for. The Running Man.
Good.
Well, I have a particular problem with this movie.
Oh dear.
Oh, okay.
And I'm actually kind of surprised that it was mentioned this early. Now, did you read the book before you saw the movie?
The short story, the Richard Bachman short story.
Yes. Yes.
I have not read it. I've not read it page one to the end, but I do know the differences. I do know what it was supposed to be. And
it wasn't even the same. I mean, it wasn't even the same storyline.
No.
And that's what kills me about that. I'm like, did he even have anything to say about this movie? Because it was so far removed from the book that I that's where I have the problem. I know it's Arnold and it was fun and it's exciting, but it was so hard to grasp it after.
Exactly. Well, I guess originally, when they were trying to make it into a more faithful adaptation, they were they were going to cast Christopher Reeve as Ben Richards. And it would have been, I think the story would have been kind of different too, but it would have been he would have been more of an everyman character.
Because Arnold was definitely not the the average Joe. And that's what, the character was. And I think that's what he wasn't a cop either. And,
no. And I don't know, for those of you listening who haven't read the story, basically, it's the same sort of plot, except the government has all sorts of these lethal game shows that you can apply for, and you can win money like people with heart conditions will run on treadmills, and the longer you go, the more money you win.
Mm-hmm.
With the Running Man in the short story, you actually had to run across the country evading stalkers who weren't Sub-Zero and Buzzsaw, and and you had to let the studio know where you were. You had to send a postcard from where you were every so often, and the stalkers would track you, and you had to evade them. And the reason the main character got chosen, or he's trying to save, was his daughter?
I thought. Well, are you talking about the book or the movie?
The book.
The book, I believe it was just because their family was really poor, and I think his daughter was sick.
Yeah.
And he just needed to do it just for the money, just because he was desperate. He couldn't get a job, couldn't get any money other ways, so he stood in line at this place and waited to get in, and made it past several tests, and became the. And I think it stuck out to me as so off because I loved the short story so much.
Of course.
I mean, it was one of my favorite King/Bachman books at that time. I just absolutely fell in love with that specific story of the four short stories that are in that Bachman collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was my favorite of the four, and when I saw the movie, I'm like, wait a minute, am I thinking of the wrong thing? It just threw me for a loop, and it was still a good movie and exciting, but it was so hard to swallow after being such a fan of the book.
Definitely, but I mean, taking the movie on its own, to me, it's just the perfect encapsulation of that in Commando, or the perfect encapsulation of 80s action movie cheese with maybe less so Commando, but Running Man's got a little bit of a brain to it, enough to keep the story interesting. But
right.
I don't know. I loved Richard Dawson.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to mention that. He was amazing. Yeah,
definitely born to play that role. Just
I think we all have movies, and I'm drawing a blank right now of one, but I I know that The Giver was recently I had read the book and really liked
Yep.
it's a young adult novel, and it was really interesting. And when I, saw the ads for the movie, I was one of those guys, right? That before you even see the movie, oh, this is horrible. How dare they trash? And, the famous story of a writer saying, they didn't do anything to my book. It's still up there on the shelf. Once you take the money, you just kind of move ahead. So I totally hear you. And there is something about them taking something you love. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not reading Game of Thrones, the books, because I just want to enjoy the TV show. And when it's over, I'll go back and read the book.
Yeah. And, I feel the same way about World War Z.
God.
Yeah, I love that book. I loved that book so much. And then I saw what they did with the movie. And I'm gonna come clean. I have not seen the movie. I'm not gonna judge it as a good or bad movie because I haven't seen the movie. It's just too different for me to be able to enjoy it on its own. I think I won't be able to look at it as its own work.
I will concur. You will not be able to look at it the same way. You won't be able to enjoy it as much as you did the book because it is two different. It's almost two different stories altogether.
Mm-hmm.
It's well done again, but
but in no way, shape, or form.
Not the book that you read now.
Yeah. Lawrence Block wrote. He's written a book of Burglar, which is this Jewish middle-aged white guy. That's a burglar, and Whoopi Goldberg played the character. And then
that's just slightly removed. I mean, really.
And then 8 Million Ways to Die just was with Jeff Bridges. Just wasn't the book. Wasn't Matthew Scudder that I wanted to see. Now, A Walk Among the Tombstones that went out last year was with Liam Neeson playing the Scudder character. It was absolutely perfect. So, yeah, I totally get that, and that doesn't make it. It's not a good movie. It just, it's one you can't appreciate for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got a question about the premise for the Running Man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's imagine that, the government, for whatever reason, is airing, a game show like this, a public execution. Would you watch?
I don't know, man. I don't think I could. I don't think I could do it.
Well, I watch very little reality shows. Now I'm loving Unreal, the fictional version of The Bachelor that's on Lifetime. That it's just hilarious, and I think because I love the actors on it. I watch Penn and Teller fool us because I'm a Penn and Teller, nut, and I love seeing the magic. But I don't. So I don't think I would, just because not only is the content would be disturbing. I just normally don't watch that, kind of stuff.
No. But the sad thing is that if they did that after the initial furor died down, and if it didn't immediately get canceled and somehow managed to pull ratings, people would continue to watch.
Yeah.
I just have this bad feeling that people would continue to watch it.
It's a sick world, and it's getting sicker as we move on.
Absolutely.
So.
That's good politics.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I hope I don't lose any listeners by admitting this, but I like reality TV show.
Yeah. No.
And so
Get off the line.
So I've watched every season of Survivor. So it's in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's like the train wreck that you can't keep your eyes off of. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling this would be like that if this was out there. It'd be like, I shouldn't look, but I'm going to look anyway. And then all of a sudden, you're setting your DVR for it.
Well, and that's the thing. In the movie The Running Man, it's a game show. It's obviously not like, a game show, but it's treated like a game show. It's got the studio audience.
Right.
If someone makes the proper bet about, which stalker makes the next kill, they win the home game, for God's sake. And I mean, think back to the 80's, and, if you watch game shows, that was like one of the weird booby prizes. Oh, you win a copy of our home game. I really want $5,000, but sure, home game.
And this is certainly the Hunger Games, the series and the movie. There's a little bit of this in that, right?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, good pick.
All right, Jesse, you're up next.
I'm gonna go ahead and use one of my pick on The Princess Bride. I gave you guys the first round. I just finished reading As You Wish by Carrie Ells.
Nice.
A book that he talked about making of it, and I cannot recommend it enough. It is absolutely charming, and he tells all the stories of it. I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it serves purpose. Rob Reiner was really worried that the studio didn't know how to market the film, which they didn't. And he was worried that, and he actually was arguing with a studio executive and said, I don't want this to be, he says, The Wizard of Oz was not a success commercially, and then when it became on TV, it became beloved. I don't want this generation, The Princess Bride, to be the modern version of The Wizard of Oz. And the studio guy said, never say that out loud again.
Yeah.
You should be grateful if your film becomes, and it has. I mean, I think in a lot of ways this is our modern version of The Wizard of Oz. We've been quoting Inconceivable. I do a castle podcast, and we named it Storm in the Castle.
Bye, boys.
Yes, my wife, when my son was a teenager, go make good choices or have fun, storm in the castle, she still will say that to me. It is a movie filled with quotes. Mm-hmm. It is funny. It's sweet. The book itself is absolutely amazing. And, when you think of Peter Falk and, a very young, why am I drawing a blank on?
Fred Savage.
Yes, Fred Savage. And then, all the characters and
Andre the Giant.
You actually got a giant to play the giant.
Yep. That was awesome.
Mandy Patinkin.
Mandy Patinkin says a day doesn't go by where someone doesn't say the line, and he does it every time, and he doesn't care.
Bless him for it, because you must get that, several thousand times a week.
Yeah. He said, Carrie Ells said at first he didn't catch when he'd order at a restaurant and they go, as you wish. And it wasn't until a couple of times he went, wait a minute, they're not making fun of me. And so you can't have a list of great 1987 movies without The Princess Bride. And so, like I said, first ballot, Hall of Fame. I won't even let you guys disagree that it belongs on the list.
Oh, it most definitely does. But I've got to ask, Wesley goes through several trials.
Yes.
He's got a sword fight, Inigo. He's got the Battle of Wits with Vizzini, and then the Battle of Brawn with Fezzik. Which is your favorite?
I love the Battle of Wits.
Yep.
And what's funny is in the book, all of them kept feeling that, like, what Wesley was the guy, Carrie Ells was worried they're gonna not want me. I'm just not gonna be this. I shouldn't be here. And Wallace Shaw thought that they wanted Danny DeVito, and the moment he is gonna mess up, they would have brought in DeVito. And the only reason he wanted, he was convinced that the only reason he had is DeVito wasn't, available. Because, Rob Reiner and his partner had all these friends.
Yep.
And the truth is, Sean Wallace is absolutely perfect in that role. And when he gets on a roll, well, only a fool would think that I would. And it just... That's my favorite part. They're all great, and Andre the Giant, you're doing really well. The other thing the book talks about is Mandy Patinkin and Carrie Ells worked with two of the classic sword stuntmen that taught Errol Flynn and all these others, and they had to practice anytime they weren't in front of the camera. They were practicing.
Wow.
So yeah.
And that's actually my favorite trial that Wesley has to go through.
Yeah.
I love the sword fight just for the fact that when they admit that they're both not left-handed.
Right.
Yep, and they did the banter back and forth with each other, and
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and what I thought was hilarious is he goes to Mandy, okay, the book says it's the greatest sword fight of all time. Man, we can't let people down.
with me, it came out when I was young, so obviously I get the childlike wonder when I first saw it. And that's one of those movies, at least for me, that even now will stick with me. I'll still have just this big goofy-ass grin on my face whenever the movie's on.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
All right,
Yeah.
well, it was just absolutely inconceivable that we would not be doing 1987 without Princess Bride.
Right.
Absolutely.
You keep using that word.
I don't think it means what you think.
Inconceivable.
All right, Scott, you're up. What's next?
Let's talk about vampires.
Ooh, I know where you're going with this.
Uh-oh.
I have to say that the Twilight series and all the other vampire movies and shows that are out there do not hold a candle to the Lost Boys. The two Coreys, you got Kiefer Sutherland. I can't remember the lead character's name. What's his name?
Jason Patrick?
Yes, thank you. Jason Patrick. The girl. I don't have that movie up in front of me, but
Star.
Yes. And I just thought, I've seen that movie over and over again. I find movies that I like, and I tend to watch them several times. Some people can't do that. Some people can't just watch a movie several times over. I can do that with no problem. And Lost Boys is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time, really. I just thought it was so cool and so well done, and just the song, the remake of the song "People Are Strange" from the Doors, and just everything about it was freaky, and it was a vampire movie like we'd never seen before. It was just different, and I just don't think any of the newer ones can compare to what that did.
Kiefer Sutherland was just absolutely awesome in that movie.
Yes.
The vampires were cool, as you guys were talking about. I'm a big Joss Whedon fan, and I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. But yeah, this was just something different. It was awesome. And, Jamie Gertz is beautiful. You already talked about the Coreys. Just a absolutely chilling, but absolutely entertaining movie.
Now, with Tim, if he was on this, I wonder if he would go the fabulous Jamie Kurtz. Yeah. So I think for this particular movie, she would definitely earn that title. So the fabulous Jamie Kurtz.
Yeah, she was fabulous. She falls into that category of fabulous on that one.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome. Just twisted and just creepy and so well done.
One of the great last lines of any movie. One thing about living in Santa Clara I could never stomach. All the damn vampires.
Oh.
All right, well, Michael, that's not rice you're eating.
Oh, that's good too.
My next pick is actually a secret of my success.
Oh.
Very nice.
I love the Michael J. Fox character being in a kind of the rural setting and just wanting to be successful to kind of, prove himself in the big bad New York City world. So I like the whole premise of it, but I mean, of course, you've got the fabulous Helen Slater in there.
Yes.
And of course, I have to pick, another one that I can plug from a previous podcast because I interviewed Christopher Murney, who played Barney Rannigan. He spent some time with us on 80's Reboot Overdrive, and he was just a joy to talk to. If you guys may not know, Christopher Murney had also did Eddie Arcadian from The Last Dragon. So I had asked him at the end of the interview what he thinks would happen if Barney Radigan and Eddie Arcadian were to meet in a bar, how they'd interact with each other. So I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that podcast to hear his answer. But yeah, Secret of My Success. I just love this movie. The 80's was Michael J. Fox, right?
Yep.
He really was, and They say there was a Tom Cruise formula in the 80s. There definitely was a Michael J. Fox formula, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It is hard for him not to be charming. I loved seeing Helen Slater, Supergirl. Richard Jordan was a great bad guy, and I really loved him from a TV. He'd done some different TV miniseries, and so a great guy to kind of root against, and and who doesn't want to have that where you go and you win the girl, you become successful. It's just greatness.
It's the ultimate underdog story.
Absolutely,
it's great. And Michael J. Who? Sorry, what? Yeah, no, seriously, he did. You guys nailed it. He was the 80s, but that movie, I love it. The elevator scene when he's changing clothes and the elevator door opens and he's like looking at himself in the mirror. It's just it's good stuff.
Does that flexing thing, and he throws his clothes to the secretary and says, "Could you wash those for me?" And
get those to the cleaners for me. Start out as the mail, the
mail clerk,
the schlep in the mail room, and become an executive within a few months,
right?
And get the girl.
And you can't go wrong with having John Pankow or Fred Melrose as the sidekick. Also, I mean, his lines were awesome too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think Michael J. Fox made about 5 movies a week in the 80s. So I don't think there was ever a point where there was not something involving Michael J. Fox going on in the 80s.
Well, he was doing Family Ties. 85 he did Back to the Future and Teen Wolf. 87 he did Light of Day, which did not make my list only because I figured I've done enough Springsteen talking. And it's not a good movie, but it has a great song. Then Secret of My Success in 87, he was partly in the TV movie Dear America, Letter Home for Vietnam.
Oh, so, yeah. That was like that weird dark turn of it. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah. So, absolutely, greatness.
Awesome. So, Nick, we're back to you.
Okay. Well, considering my ultimate choice was taken, I've been waffling over 2 separate things. Hopefully one of you will talk about the other, because for humor's sake, I'm going to have to go with Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe.
The live-action movie.
So what is it? Why does this one do it for you?
Well, because honestly, I think it was, like, even as a young kid, one of the first movies I remember being legitimately disappointed by. Because, I was a huge He-Man fan. I wasn't one of the kids who had all the toys, but I had friends who had the toys. We were always playing He-Man, always watching the cartoon. And then the live-action movie comes out, and you're like, okay, cool. We got, live-action He-Man. Skeletor looks pretty awesome. Oh, cool, they're on Eternia. That's neat. Wait, where are they going? No. Courtney Cox, no. And no Orko.
Yeah, Orko didn't make it in that one.
Orko didn't make it. No. I mean, looking back on it now, you enjoy it for the sheer cheesiness of it, and Frank Langella obviously is having a blast. Apparently, he still loves talking about Skeletor. But
do you know I've never seen this movie?
You need to see it once just so you can say, "Oh yeah, I saw that movie."
Yeah, but, and I know there's a whole. I should do a Google search about. Somebody had a theory that He-Man really was a retelling of Jack Kirby's New Gods.
Oh, yes, because, and I will totally go with that, because in the movie, yes, Skeletor is looking for like the source of ultimate power, which is like that movie's version of the anti-life equation, for those of you who know the comics. And he becomes this sort of golden god Skeletor at the end. And yeah, it's sort of like the same thing with like Skeletor and Darkseid. So I guess if you ever wanted to watch a Fourth World movie with Dolph Lundgren and Courtney Cox and James Tolkien, the guy who played Strickland in Back to the Future. He plays a cop in that.
Okay.
Yeah, I also have never seen this movie. I was not a huge He-Man fan at the time.
No. Well, I think I'm the youngest person here. Basically, the short version is they spend about 15 minutes in Eternia, and it looks like Kirk's Rock from Star Trek, pretty much.
Okay.
Billy Barty he's this short little inventor named Goldor, because apparently they couldn't just do some really crappy Orko effect, and he creates this device that opens a portal through time and space, and they end up on modern day Earth. And some teenagers encounter them and have to help them fight off the forces of Skeletor. They had a few of the bad guys from the cartoon. They had Beastman and Evil Lyn, but that was about it. Otherwise, He-Man was just fighting off a bunch of mooks. Actually, thinking about it now just makes me very sad. Sorry.
I don't know, but as you're describing it, I was relating it to Thor.
Actually, thank you, Dave. That thinking about it now, that it's an older, crappier Thor.
Yeah, and I just looked it up at Wikipedia, and the guy definitely said, this was Jack Kirby, a lot of tributes. So I now need to see it just for that perspective and watch it from that. So
yes.
Thanks. Let me add that to my list.
And Frank Langella as Skeletor, who puts in a legitimately fun performance.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, only because there's not like a Thundercats live-action movie to compete with.
Don't ever say that.
I'm just saying that we don't have that to do a comparison. Otherwise, I'd be like, well, you have to pick that one over this one. But
boy, they're making Jeb. Don't tempt them.
So then we're back to Jesse. What's your third pick?
So I have two or three that I could pick, but I'm going to go with Untouchables.
Nice.
Ooh.
Very nice.
Sean Connery, Charles Martin Smith, who I loved in American Graffiti, Andy Garcia, Robert De Niro, and of course Kevin Costner. So I'm not a huge Kevin Costner fan, though I still cry at Field of Dreams every time I watch it. But I don't hate Kevin Costner. It just so happens, two of his films made it. You want to know how to get to Capone? They pull a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. That's how you get Capone. I can't do it with the accent, but
it's Capone.
Capone.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful, and it works. It's a great, period piece, and De Niro with the baseball bat is
That scene was one of the most disturbing scenes I recall. Just the fury that Robert De Niro was smashing the guy's skull with the bat was just unbelievable. It was I was sold. He was acting. He was acting. It freaked me out, and then that big puddle of blood, that spirit just kind of slowly spreads across the table. That scene just really freaked me out. But overall, loved that movie with Kevin Costner was great in it. Along with the rest of the cast, and Sean Connery. It's the Chicago way. It's great, man. Just the Chicago way.
It's amazing.
The Chicago way.
This movie's an all-in just for the cast. I mean, Costner, Connery, Andy Garcia, Robert De Niro.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Robert De Palma directed it, and then written by David Mamet, who has gone on to done amazing films and plays, and everywhere from Glengarry Glen Ross, and I loved his Wag the Dog, so it is an all-star crew and cast, and just great stuff.
Yeah, great pick. All right, Scott, you're up.
Another one of my all-time favorites that I can watch over and over again. It's not funny at all. It's Full Metal Jacket. Extremely moving and powerful, and just so well done that it's amazing. It really was amazing. I mean, what was it? R. Lee
Ermey.
Ermey
Yeah.
was the perfect person to play that role as the sergeant. You can't find another person that could have nailed it the way he did. It was, again, you bought every second of it.
Well, you heard how he got the part, right?
Well, I believe he was a sergeant in the Marines, wasn't he?
Well, he wasn't a gunnery sergeant. He was I think he retired as a staff sergeant, but he came on as the military advisor for the actor that they actually had cast for Hartman, and he was just he was doing like a sample rant, and Kubrick liked his work better than the actors, and I guess one of the things he did to audition to make sure he could do it was he stood up against a wall, ranted for 20 minutes without repeating himself once, while being pelted with oranges, and that's how they knew he got the part.
Wow.
Yep. And
Pyle, what is your major malfunction?
And early role for Vincent D'Onofrio there too.
Yes, exactly, and very well done on his part too.
Oh yeah, and what's funny is people, whenever they think of Full Metal Jacket, they think of the boot camp scenes with Hartman and Pyle and Joker, and that's only like the first 40 minutes of the movie.
Right, the rest is in,
then it goes to Vietnam,
and it gets even darker from there. I mean, it's absolutely one of my favorites.
Yeah, R. Lee, he just nailed the beginning, and it was, I mean, it's hard to think of that movie without thinking of the boot camp, scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much, that happened in that movie that was powerful. I agree. That was when he was in Vietnam. Even that scene where he's got to deal with that. I think it was a Fulbird colonel who is trying to explain why he's got Born to Kill on his helmet, and he's got the peacekeeping, the peace button.
Yep.
The yin yang thing. So I mean, all those great scenes and memorable. But I mean, as soon as somebody says that movie, they're thinking the boot camp stuff.
Oh yeah. And I love Matthew Modine's character in it. He was kind of naive in the beginning, I think, and realized how dark it can get. And plus, as a photographer, I like his lead character was a photographer for the newspaper, which kind of they played that out as that he wasn't really the Marine that the other guys were, because he was a journalist, but just loved it.
So I've never seen this.
Oh,
and I
think
the world is telling me I need to, because I was bringing this up, and Karen, who I do Storm the Castle with, and she does the fandom podcast on this network, was like, what? How? She goes, I can't stand Kubrick, and I like this movie. How have you not seen it? So now then, this is the second time, so I guess obviously I need to go see this movie. Rent this movie and see it.
Yeah, I mean, I there's a lot of great movies in '87. I was going through the list. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, that's awesome. That's an awesome movie. But this definitely made my top 3. So I would recommend checking it out. It's good. It's prepare yourself for dark. Prepare yourself for moving and emotional. It's phenomenal acting. Phenomenal.
Yeah, don't be going into it thinking it's a feel good, happy ending.
It's a Vietnam movie. It's not good.
Yeah, and that's why I've kind of stayed away from it. It's just kind of, do I really want to go through that, genre? But it sounds like it's amazing, and so it's something I need to check out.
Well, if there were other Vietnam movies that you've avoided, or that you kind of just didn't get interested in, of all of the Vietnam movies, I would recommend this one the most.
Okay.
Because it was definitely the most powerful.
Okay.
Even over Apocalypse Now?
That was good. It was good, but
it got really weird at the end, though.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this one does too, but
not quite that weird.
No.
Okay. Good. All right. Great choice.
All right, so we are on my final pick, and I'm only afraid that it's going to fail in comparison to that last one. and I'm actually going to be surprised if all three of you have heard or have seen this movie.
Uh-oh.
But Angel Heart.
Okay.
Oh, is that Val Kilmer?
No.
This is the Lisa Bonet movie.
Lisa
Oh,
Bonet,
yeah,
Mickey
Lisa Bonet
Rourke,
from
Robert
Cosby
De
Show.
Niro.
Yes.
Yeah, so in this case, Mickey Rourke is a detective, and he's hired by, or his name's Harry Angel, and he's hired by this guy named Louis Cypher,
Yep.
who's Robert De Niro,
Uh-huh.
to find somebody. And so it's got a lot of very powerful voodoo type stuff going on because, of course, it's voodoo. You've got it's in New Orleans.
Yep.
But I mean, for this movie, for some reason, it just if it's on, I can't stop watching it. It's gory. It's definitely not a family-friendly movie by any means, but just something about it just hooks me. And maybe it's because in my professional life, I had a chance where I went to a technology conference, and I went to New Orleans, and I got a chance to go on a voodoo tour.
Oh,
Where
cool.
they actually went through and talked about various things around voodoo.
Like authentic.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting to learn a little bit around it as a religion or practice. And of course, a lot of what Hollywood does is really,
Hollywoodize it.
Hollywoodize it. Great way to put it. So, in this movie, is a lot of that, a lot of the Hollywoodization of voodoo. But of course, in this case, I definitely could not go without saying the fabulous Lisa Bonet in this movie. But there are certain scenes that I can't talk about as to why she's a fabulous Lisa Bonet. Just a very powerful movie for me, and I'm really interested if you guys remember this as much as I do.
I know the story,
Okay.
and I know the twist, because I can read, but I've never seen it front to back.
Okay.
So I have seen it. I am not a fan of horror normally. I grew up on Disney movies, and so as my friends, and when I had to design a house signal, shield for the Game of Thrones podcast, I set a rainbow over the TARDIS. So I tend to stay away from dark movies, but I remember watching this one. I remember being struck by how well it was done, and not a movie that I would want to rewatch. But when I saw it on the list, I skipped over it because it's not my kind of movie. But I am not shocked one of you picked it.
I recall.
Are you shocked that it was me that picked it?
Yes, I am, and I didn't know if I wanted to do this. Dave, I was just sitting here. I'm going. Dave goes very commercial all the time. On our 3 albums he picked, and I'm not saying they're bad picks. It's just you don't go as obscure. And so I'm like, okay, Dave picked Some Kind of Wonderful, a John Hughes film, Secret of My Success. Oh, Michael J. Fox, a fun little, movie, Angel Heart. And to quote Sesame Street, one of these is not like the others. One of these doesn't belong.
It doesn't belong. No.
Well, I'm so
Great
glad.
job, Dave.
I'm glad I could surprise you, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm shocked too. I mean, Dave, I don't know you as well as Jesse maybe, but it was not something that would have popped up on my list, even in the top 20. I remember seeing the movie. I know I saw it. It didn't leave a impression on me at the time, but you got Mickey Rourke and Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
And Mickey Rourke back then was an amazing actor. Yep. He kind of faded away after a while, but.
And it's the mileage on Mickey Rourke, right?
Yeah, definitely the mileage now.
But back then he was in his day,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mickey Rourke classic, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great choice. I know we're running short on time, but is there anything that one or two that you guys didn't make our list that you guys were surprised?
Spaceballs. I was hoping one of you guys mentioned space.
Yeah, you know what? I'm surprised about that one too.
'Cause
Predator.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
Predator, really good one. Yes.
That was number 4 for me.
Got
So
that.
Okay.
Well, I think
It
we're
was a
going to
good year
pick
for
up.
movies. It was.
We're going to pick up some of these as we do some Twitter shoutouts.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
We'll return after these messages.
My Wesley will always come for me.
Your Wesley is dead.
You may have heard tales of damsels in distress,
I'm killing myself once we reach the honeymoon suite.
wouldn't that be nice? But you've never seen anything like the Princess Bride.
Inconceivable!
She gets kidnapped, he gets killed,
I've seen worse.
but it all ends up okay.
Have fun storming the castle!
The Princess Bride, a new comedy by Rob Reiner.
Starts Friday, October 9th at a Cineplex Odeon Theater near you. Check local listings for showtime.
What you guys may not know if you're not following the 80s Reboot Twitter feed is that about 2 days ago, Jesse posted actually a music video to Light of Day with Springsteen. And of course, he asked everybody about what their favorite 1987 movie is. So you've definitely got to go back to the 80s Reboot thing and take a look at that. It's Joan Jett playing with Bruce. Doing the title song for Light of Day. And since we're doing Twitter shout-outs, I want a Twitter shout-out first off to Joan Jett Toronto. And Joan Jett Toronto is actually somebody that's helped me kind of understand the nuances of Twitter a lot more. So she's a great person. She's got just a wonderful fan Twitter feed that's devoted to all things Joan Jett. So if you're not checking her out, please do so. But one of the first responders that we had was at Kevin Bacheldr. So this is Kevin Bachadler. I'm saying that wrong. I know it.
That's
But
right.
he says Predator, RoboCop, Princess Bride, Cherry 2000, Adventures in Babysitting.
Adventures of Babysitting is one that I would have brought up. If for no other reason, you get the blues, and it's the first mainstream movie that mentioned a less than mainstream comic character. There is a couple of references to Thor in the movie, and it's just like, I can't believe they're mentioning Thor. I mean, no one knows who Thor is, except the Morse gods. And so, yes, I really appreciate Kevin. He does Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV podcast, and I appreciate him getting us on there.
Then we got Jason R. Wells, Esquire. This is JR Wells 82 on Twitter. He's throwing out RoboCop, Lethal Weapon, and The Lost Boys.
Good.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon, man.
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
Gibson.
It is kind of. We could have gone forever, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a good year for movies. It was a
Oh, absolutely.
I love the how they were doing like the Three Stooges in that movie.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember, do you really want to jump?
Charles Skaggs, at Charles Skaggs, says The Living Daylights, RoboCop, and Princess Bride.
Yes,
Daylight.
Charles. Yeah, Charles Skaggs is my partner in Next Stop Everywhere, Doctor Who podcast, and he's also loves James Bond. So great Bond movie. Totally agree.
No, which was that?
That was
the
Timothy Dalton.
That was the Timothy Dalton one. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, with the 80s, was that the first time that we had 3 Bonds?
Ooh.
I was just wondering if anybody else would know off the top of their head. I don't want you tweeting it or Googling it right now.
It seems to be about right because you had Sean Connery they had the Sean last
Never Say Never Again. Yeah.
right in what was that 84 with and then they also had Moonraker the same year.
Roger.
So that was Roger
Moore, and then
Moore.
Timothy Dalton,
Yeah.
and Pierce Brosnan wasn't until the 90s, right?
No.
Yeah.
Brosnan was going to be in the 80s, but they wouldn't let him
Right.
out of Remington Steele.
Yes.
Now, was it Moonraker or was it Octopussy that Never Say Never Again was up against? I'm trying to remember. Because that came out in the 80s, too.
Yeah, you had 2 Bond films in the same
Yeah.
summer. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it was the summer of 3 Bonds. Or
Yes.
the decade of 3 Bonds, rather.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Neat. Nice catch.
So, J.R. Wells 82 actually is giving some honorable mentions also. So he's throwing out Ernest Goes to Camp and The Monster Squad.
Oh, Wolfman's got
Says,
nards.
2 staples of my childhood.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Wolfman's got nards.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, great. Annette, and she's at Oceanic 0623, responds Planes, Trains, Automobiles, Spaceballs, and Princess Bride.
Yes.
Nice.
Good picking there.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's not really in my wheelhouse, but I know it was popular. Has anyone mentioned Dirty Dancing yet?
No one has.
Nobody did.
Yeah.
And Swayze had a couple of movies that year, too.
Yeah, he did.
He had that Steel Dawn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, yep.
And,
nobody puts Baby in a corner.
Well, apparently they did tonight. No one mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, like I said, it isn't in my wheelhouse, but you're right. My buddy, Bob Bland, he said, because I said that I didn't give Princess Bride in my tweet. I said that, it's inconceivable this wouldn't be a first ballot, Hall of Fame. And he goes, give me Raising Arizona.
Ooh,
and then he said, I know you're referencing Princess Bride. He said Raising Arizona would be a first ballot Hall of Fame one.
Number 5 on my list, actually.
Oh, good.
Raising Arizona, yep.
Yeah.
Great movie.
It is very good.
Holly Hunter, hysterical in that.
Yes.
I love him so much.
John Goodman. They bust out of the prison.
Matt, who's at Your Tweets Bore Me, he threw out Lethal Weapon, Predator, RoboCop. An honorable mention was Princess Bride, Full Metal Jacket, and Adventures in Babysitting. So definitely all movies we've already talked about, other than Predator, actually.
And Predator, speaking of action movies, that's just another great one.
Yeah, the scene when they mow down that section of jungle with just every ounce of bullet that they got. I mean, it was just, it was awesome.
So I believe it's Peter David who said he thinks that's one of the best Tarzan movies ever made. And if it's not Peter David, I'll give him credit. But I think that was really true.
Also, 2 future governors in the same movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh wow, Jesse Ventura. That's right.
Boy, that would win you a round of drinks at a bar trivia. I don't think that would go. That's really well done.
So there you go, kids. We fed you 2 of them now. 2 governors in an 87 movie, and which decade had 3 Bonds.
Yeah.
All right. So Dan Maxwell at Dan Maxwell 79 says Garbage Kids all day.
Garbage
Kids. Oh, Garbage Kids movie. Yep.
Again, I had the cards. Did not see the movie.
Will Bryan, which is at WC Bryan 80. He actually sent pics, so I'm translating the pics. But it's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Predator. He's got Evil Dead 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good. That's good.
And With Nell and I, which I'm not familiar with at all.
That's a British series, With Nell and I.
Okay.
Richard Grant and Paul McGann. That's a very unique show. It's not something you'd immediately think of when you think of 80s movies, but it's a good movie.
But Evil Dead 2, good job, Will Bryan, for bringing that one up.
Yeah.
One of my favorite tweets today, we got one from Tristan Lofting, and this is at Tristan Lofting, and Tristan actually was asking, if we would have version of the 11-year-old versus the 39-year-old. And the actual list changes based on that, the age range. So the 11-year-old Tristan Lofting was picking Princess Bride, Moonstruck, and 3 Men and a Baby.
Oh, yeah.
But the 39-year-old Tristan is picking RoboCop, Princess Bride, and Black Widow.
Nice.
Which one is Black Widow?
That's Sean Young again? Was that
I don't
Sean
know if
Young?
Black Widow was or not.
I would have to look that one up.
Yeah, I'd have to look up real quick, too.
I think it is.
I'm looking. Deborah Winger and Teresa.
Oh, Deborah Winger.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And further tweets, I still have fondness for Moonstruck, though. But RoboCop, that is just too awesome. Need to watch it again soon. One more thing. Sorry, special mention for Masters of the Universe.
All right.
Didn't see it until the next year, but I loved how bad it was.
Well,
Great.
and Moonstruck is a good movie. I mean, it is a fun movie. Get over it. With Cher.
Won the Oscar for that one, didn't she?
Yeah, I think she did. It's amazing. Some of these. I'm going through the list and movies that I don't necessarily remember, but I remember the, dialogue. And Tin Men is one of those, a Barry Levinson film. And all I can remember is Danny DeVito at the end. He's talking to, damn it, why am I old and forget actors' names, right? It was Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh.
And Richard Dreyfuss says, you don't have a pot to blank in. And Danny DeVito says, well, you give me a pot and I'll fill it up. And Garden of Stone is another one that I stick with. The not necessarily a great movie, Vietnam era, but this young guy goes to James Caan and says, Sarge, can I get a 3-day pass? I want to see my girl. Yeah, I'll get that. And okay, can I borrow your car? Well, yeah, I'll let you borrow my car. And how about some money? And James Caan says, do you want to borrow my blank so you can blank her? There, Rob, you didn't have to bleak me out. But you can fill it in, and I just, that line has stuck with me. So those are my honorable mentions, along with Adventure and Babysitting, as I've already talked about. And for what it's worth, I thought Ishtar wasn't as bad as everyone said it was.
It's not great, but it's definitely...
Right. I mean, I understand what they were trying to do.
All right, so we got a couple more tweets to get through here. Good. So we got Big Chris at BigChris8089. Adventures in Babysitting. We got Lethal Weapon again. And this time, somebody's bringing up Hellraiser.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so definitely got to get Pinhead in there.
We'll tear your soul apart. Disturbing.
Awesome, Scott.
Thank you.
So Horror H Horror, great Twitter handle, at Horror H Horror, is picking Evil Dead 2, Predator, and Near Dark.
Near Dark.
Ooh.
A very horror-centric top 3.
Oh, yes, it is.
Bill Paxton? Was that Bill Paxton, right? Near Dark? That's that one?
Okay, whose Google skills are up to
I got it. Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they were, what were they? Vampires, right?
Yeah, but they weren't like sexy vampires. They're
No. They were very dark and disturbing. Yeah. I haven't seen that one in a long time, but I do remember it was pretty good.
So you're saying it's not Lost Boys, is what you're saying?
No. Still not Lost Boys. Still didn't grab me the way Lost Boys did, definitely.
All right, so All New Sucks, which is SUX. So at All New SUX says Hellraiser, Hollywood Shuffle, and Full Metal Jacket.
I liked Hollywood Shuffle.
All right, remind me of Hollywood Shuffle.
Oh, why can I not drink the actor? It's a satire of how, and actually not as much of a satire, that the only roles you can have as an African American is, a junkie or a thief or, all these different things. And you got to do the Hollywood Shuffle to make it in the business.
Robert Townsend. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Robert Townsend.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and it's funny and pretty good.
All right, awesome. Movie blog B. So at movie blog B is going Planes, Trains, Automobiles, Raising Arizona, and Throw Mama from the Train.
Oh, I remember. Off the train.
Yeah.
Wow, how come these didn't make the list?
Yeah.
Actually, Throw Mama would have been number 9 for me. Like Jesse said something about making your top 10 list just in case other people pick.
Yeah, and I did.
And Throw Mama from the Train made my top 10. So I love Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito just played off each other so well on that. Yep. It's too funny.
Absolutely.
And what's the actress's name? The one that played Mama? I can never remember her name. She was in Goonies.
Yep, she was Mama Fratelli. Yep.
Yeah.
That was her last role, I think, too.
Yeah, she was a great actress in that.
Yep.
Well, in all of those.
Yep.
Yeah. So Sarah Jane at Fook This said some kind of wonderful, my pick. Prick Up Your Ears and Empire of the Sun.
Ooh, Empire of the Sun. Powerful movie.
Yeah.
Don't know Prick Up Your Ears. I don't remember that one.
I don't know that
at
one
all.
either.
That sounds vaguely indecent.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
At Movie Posters says RoboCop, Wall Street, and A Nightmare on Elm Street. And nobody's brought up Wall Street before.
I was going to say, I'm glad someone brought up Wall Street, because I was going to mention it if no one did.
Yeah.
Oh, Gordon Gekko. Jeez,
Yes.
of course.
Read, for lack of a better word, is good.
It's good, yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, really good choice.
Also very encapsulating of the 80s. And
Yes.
And here's another one that wasn't brought up by us. Blast from the Past, at 80's Junkie, and that's 80 spelled out. Brought up RoboCop, Over the Top.
I was going to say something about that.
And Can't Buy Me Love.
I liked, the lady just died in Can't Buy Me Love.
I know.
Really great movie. McDreamy before he was McDreamy. It was a wonderful movie, and I love that. A great, romantic teenage comedy, really fun.
Well, let's not, diminish Over the Top. Of course that was, just fantastic, wonderful, Stallone-ish.
Yeah, how can you go wrong with an arm wrestling movie? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Yes.
A whole movie made about arm wrestling.
I think it was Henry Rollins who was talking about this movie, and he said that the movie was pretty much an excuse to show Stallone, moving his bottom lip, down his face further and further as the movie went on. Just look at his reaction shots of him trying to push.
Yeah, Rollins is hysterical. He's got a very unusual take on a lot of things. Yep. That movie, I wrote it down actually as my number 10 just because it had to be. It was such it was bad.
Oh yeah,
it was one of the worst movies.
Maybe it's just me, but when I was in high school and whatever, and if ever we needed to settle things via arm wrestling, because you sometimes did. You one of us would have to do the full Stallone, pretty much. Just if nothing else, just psych the opponent out. Just go. Really just play it up that we were hurting,
What a great character name too, though. Lincoln Hawk.
I know.
Is that his porn name? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, seriously, it's one of those names you only find in an action movie, where a testosterone movie.
Oh, absolutely.
A person was born to be a hero. Their name.
Yeah.
All right, so J+ at J+5 says hashtag Predator all day long. Yeah.
Good.
And I've got to end with actually somebody that I've been doing great Twitter interactions with for a while. This is at 80's Girl 216. She's got Princess Bride and Lost Boys are top 10 for 80s in general. So Princess Bride obviously is in our list, and Lost Boys made our list too. So fantastic.
God, there were just so many great movies that
know.
year.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Witches of Eastwick. You got Inner Space. I loved Inner Space.
Yep.
Yeah, I did.
About that.
You guys like that movie too?
Yeah, I love it.
And
it's a nice, clean, fun movie.
I had a thing for Meg Ryan, so that's the reason why that would make my list. But just Tuck Pendleton to the rescue. Just fantastic.
Yep. You got Blind Date, Lesson Zero. It just goes on and on. You can't. There's so many great ones.
Dang.
Oh, Lesson Zero. Wow.
Yeah.
The great, as Dave knows, I kind of have a thing about Annette O'Toole. She was in a romantic comedy with Martin Short, which doesn't work, but she's really good in it. Cross My Heart, which is 87. Annette O'Toole.
So you must really love Superman 3.
Yes. And Superman 4, horrible movie, but it came out in 87. And I don't think that the young Jesse would ever imagine that a new Superman movie would be disappointing, even after 3. Yeah. And now, of course, that happens on a regular basis. Not to get on a tangent, but you didn't like Superman's
Great Wall rebuilding powers?
Yeah,
we had those in the comics, right?
Yes.
All right, guys, we absolutely cannot end this with Superman reference.
No, we cannot. Superman 4 anyway.
Okay. Ready?
That's right.
Fatal Attraction.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be ignored, Dan.
Yep.
Absolutely a wonderful, scary movie. Great stuff. And people talked about that movie so much.
You never saw a rabbit the same way again.
No.
Ever.
It gave us the term bunny boiler.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, 1987 movies could last for probably another couple hours, but we're going to cut it off though.
Yep.
So, any parting thoughts?
Before we go around and tell everyone where they can find us on Twitter, Dave, are we going to do 1988?
We've got to go with it. We got to continue the cycle. We've got 88 and we've got 89 to go through.
And 89. Yes, absolutely. So,
and believe it or not, we actually started the series with 1982, so we still got 1980 and 1981, which are fair game.
Wait, why did we start with 82?
We started because summer of 82 was the big blockbuster year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, was that with E.T. and...
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of our jump in point. So we actually didn't cover the very beginning of the decade. And I think there's probably some very honorable mentions, in the early 80s to go through.
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking we need to do 88. We actually need to do 89, and then we'll go back do 80 and 81. Who knows where we go from there.
I was going to say, that 80s reboot will be over.
No, I think then we start with our top TV choices for those years.
Yes.
So we'll go through which was your top 3 for 1980, which are your top 3 for 81, et cetera, et cetera.
I won't be able to really contribute meaningfully till 82 and after. But
oh, come on, Nick.
I wasn't even genetic material then.
I know. Anything else? Any other parting thoughts before we start talking about where everybody can find us?
No, except for, I just want to let everyone know, no more rhyming, and I mean it.
No more rhyming.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
It was a line from The Princess Bride that I was hoping someone would finish.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry, I blew it.
Yeah, you blew it.
You were throwing in you gave us the pass for us to dunk it, and we just missed it.
And you bricked it.
Yeah.
Ouch. Ouch.
Sorry, Twitter. you can finish it for me. I know you guys can.
I'm sure they could. Nick, where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at WheelIamCrow. William is actually my first name, but I go by my middle name, so I'm on the 80s reboot. You'll see me if you actually hear what I have to say outside of this program.
And everybody should really go back and listen to the 80s Toy podcast because Nick really opens up about Teddy Ruxpin. So I would recommend that. So, Jesse, how about you?
I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. Been on, I've already done my plugs for podcasting, Doctor Who and Storming the Castle. So, and I do a little bitty podcast about Halt and Catch Fire that you might just enjoy.
When is that on?
We'll that one gets posted on the 80s Reboot feed on Wednesdays. Our reviews of the episodes of Halt and Catch Fire. All right, Scott, how about you?
At Scott's Eye. EYE. Scott's EYE. I'm a photographer. It's a photographer thing. So.
All right. And, of course, I'm Dave, and I take care of the 80s Reboot Overdrive feed, so that's at 80s Reboot on Twitter. We've got our Facebook, which is facebook.com/80s Reboot. You can also find us on Tumblr, which is 80sreboot.tumblr.com. And I would be remiss if I ended this without actually saying the words Valley Girl. So, so just had to throw that out there. I don't know why, just a completely random thought. You guys dwell on it, and you have a good night.
We are the ones who dwell on Valley Girl, yeah.
So with that, have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Bye.
Take care.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.